On the morning of September 15, 2007, at Melbourne's train station in Australia, passengers noticed a young Asian girl wandering alone and crying. They immediately sought assistance from station staff. During the interaction, they realized that the girl did not speak English. Initially, they thought she had been separated from her family, so they brought her to the office. Since she was wearing clothes from the children's brand Pumpkin Patch, they nicknamed her Little Pumpkin. The staff then reviewed the surveillance footage to search for the girl's relatives. However, they discovered something unusual. A middle-aged man was seen pulling a suitcase and leading Little Pumpkin into the station. He bent down to speak to her briefly, then went up the escalator and never returned. The staff concluded that Little Pumpkin had likely been abandoned by the middle-aged man and reported the incident to the police. This discovery, however, led to a shocking case that rocked the Chinese communities in both Australia and the United States. At the same time, it exposed the criminal actions of a Chinese martial arts master. Through further investigation, the police confirmed that Little Pumpkin, then 3 years old, was a New Zealand citizen, and the man who abandoned her was her father, a 53-year-old Chinese martial arts master named Ne Yinu. His English name was Michael. Australian police examined flight records and found that, on September 13, 2007, 2 days before the incident, Michael and his daughter flew from Auckland, New Zealand, to Melbourne, Australia, using their New Zealand passports. On September 15, just 2 hours after abandoning his daughter at the Melbourne station, Michael boarded an international flight alone to Los Angeles, USA. His actions indicated that he had planned to abandon his 3-year-old daughter. However, a puzzling question remained. If he only intended to abandon his daughter, why didn't he do so in New Zealand? And where was the girl's mother? The Australian police passed along the information they had gathered to New Zealand authorities in hopes of locating Little Pumpkin's mother. 2 days later, on September 17th, Auckland police went to Michael's house to investigate. They discovered that Little Pumpkin's mother had been missing for several days. As a result, they immediately requested a search warrant and began searching Michael's home. Later that evening, after 5 p.m., the police found a woman's body in the trunk of Michael's Honda. Upon identification, the victim was confirmed to be Michael's wife, Anna. She was wearing a nightgown with no underwear, and a pair of red panties had been discarded beside the body. In addition, a yellow tie was found wrapped around her neck. The medical examiner determined that Anna had been dead for about a week. Before her death, she had not been sexually assaulted, and the cause of death was determined to be suffocation. The yellow tie belonged to her husband. On the panties, DNA from 3 men was found, one of whom was her husband. Michael had flown with his daughter to Australia on September 13th, then abandoned her and continued on to the United States. All these suspicious actions pointed to Michael as the prime suspect in the case. After entering the United States, no one knew where Michael had gone. The case immediately caused a stir in the Chinese community in New Zealand, as Michael was regarded as an influential figure within the Chinese community. He was born in 1954 in Yingkou, China, and grew up in Liaoning. From a young age, he developed a deep interest in martial arts. He began practicing martial arts at the age of 8 and later received instruction from various masters. By that time, he had gained some fame in the martial arts community in northern China. Michael later claimed to be the 6th-generation successor of the Tai Chi style. Of course, from a modern perspective, this title doesn't carry much weight. However, in that era, with the presence of many martial arts masters, the title held significant meaning. In 1983, at the age of 29, Michael claimed to have been ranked among the top 10 martial artists in China and was hailed as a master by the international martial arts community. He went on to write and publish an autobiography, declaring himself the grandmother of Tai Chi. With the reverence of his disciples, Michael opened a martial arts school to attract more students and earn tuition fees. Among his students were prominent members of society, and as a result, he enjoyed both fame and fortune. His career flourished, and during this time, Michael was able to purchase a luxury car. All of this was the result of the combined efforts of Michael and his first wife. Gradually, Michael's students began to realize that their master was just a bragger with no real combat experience. This became Michael's biggest weakness. As a result, the number of students and the revenue of his martial arts school started to decline, eventually making it unsustainable. However, Michael heard that his martial arts were highly regarded abroad, so he decided to take a risky step. In 1996, Michael immigrated to Auckland, New Zealand. At that time, he was over 40 years old and had just divorced his first wife. Michael lived in New Zealand with his daughter and opened a martial arts center there. Each year, he held several martial arts performances. He also tried to teach martial arts in the US, but ultimately, it didn't succeed. The Chinese community had mixed opinions about Michael's martial arts skills and character. Many people believed that he was all talk and had no real talent. In short, Michael always presented himself as a distinguished master, but regardless of the country, he didn't attract many students. The main reason for this was his rude, domineering personality and his strong need for control. Michael repeatedly abused his daughter, making her childhood unhappy. When he traveled to the US, he left his daughter at home without any care or responsibility. Moreover, from his previous marriage, it was clear that he often attacked his wife and children, which made his daughter feel unsafe. Once she became independent, his daughter chose to leave and never returned. During this time, Michael met a woman from China named Anan Lo. Anan Lo was born in 1980 in Changsha, Hunan. Her mother was a senior manager in a business. Initially, Anan had a very good job in China, but she later decided to further her education and study abroad. In 2002, she arrived in New Zealand at the age of 22. However, upon arrival, Anan Le discovered that she had been deceived by a recruitment agency. Instead of enrolling in a prestigious university, she was placed in a language school. She had to pass her exams within 6 months, or she would have to return to China once her visa expired. This made it difficult for her to improve her English, especially since life in the Chinese community rarely required speaking English. After a traffic accident left her injured, the 6 months passed quickly. As her visa expiration loomed and she was unable to pass her exams, Ananla tried to extend her visa but was once again scammed by an agent. Most of the money she had brought with her was taken, and facing the prospect of returning home empty-handed, Ananla was determined to stay. The lonely and desperate young woman decided to do whatever it took to remain in the country. She began living illegally, without a stable place to stay. By October 2002, unable to afford her rent, Ananlo searched for cheaper accommodations. It was during this time that she met Michael, a landlord offering affordable housing in Auckland. After learning about her situation, Michael told her she didn't need to pay rent. All she had to do was keep the house clean, and she could stay. Ananlo was deeply grateful for his generosity and moved in. At the time, Michael, then 48, wasn't simply offering her a place to stay, he also wanted to pursue the young and beautiful woman, who was 26 years his junior. Surprisingly to many, Ananlo quickly accepted Michael's romantic advances. Ananlo was only 4 years older than Michael's daughter, and it's hard to believe this was genuine love. If Michael's martial arts school had been doing well at the time, Ananlo likely saw a relationship with him as a way to avoid financial difficulties while studying abroad. Their relationship developed rapidly, and they began living together at the start of 2003. When they got married, Ananlo was already pregnant. Later that same year, she gave birth to a daughter, the girl we now know as Little Pumpkin in this case. It seemed like Ananlo had found a good man in a foreign country, but after their marriage, Ananlo discovered that her husband was jealous and forbade her from interacting with other men. Even minor disagreements would result in Michael physically abusing her. Although her life was far from what she had imagined, without a card, Ananlo felt she had no choice but to endure in silence. In 2006, when Michael was over 50, like many martial artists, he could not avoid the decline in physical abilities, especially since he didn't have any real skill. The martial arts club had become nothing more than a name without value. It had long ceased to provide Michael with any significant income. That same year, Ananlo received her green card. She no longer had to rely entirely on her husband, as she now had permanent residency. This changed everything. She no longer fully obeyed her husband's orders and even refused to be intimate with him. This made Michael, already struggling with his failing career, even more frustrated and angry. He frequently used his fists against his wife, forbade her from leaving the house, and did not allow her to make friends freely. He even hid her passport and other documents. In September 2006, unable to endure the domestic abuse any longer, Anand Le decided to escape. She began searching for her passport but instead found a gun. She panicked and was soon discovered by Michael. As a result, she was beaten again, and he even threatened her with a knife. Despite the hardship and loss of freedom, Anand Le never gave up on the idea of escaping. She finally took advantage of an opportunity, opened the door, and ran to a neighbor's house. After the neighbor called the police, they came and arrested Michael. In June 2007, when the police took him away, Michael was still threatening Anand Le, saying that he would kill her. Anand Le and her daughter were taken to a local women's shelter. The staff noticed that she had a split lip and bruises around her eyes. The mother and daughter were provided with food and shelter for a month while Anand filed for a restraining order. As for Michael, he faced charges, but ultimately, Anand Le withdrew the case. She couldn't bring herself to send Michael to jail, hoping instead that they could separate amicably. In November 2006, Anand Le took her daughter and returned to her hometown in Changsha, Hunan Province, China, where they stayed for 4 months. While she was away, Michael began dating another woman, but the relationship was short-lived. After the breakup, Michael contacted his wife several times, promising that he would never use violence again and even offering to renew their wedding vows. This moved her. After 4 months in Changsha, Anand Le returned to New Zealand with her daughter. At this point, the martial arts center had completely collapsed, and Michael began looking for other ways to make money. By the end of 2006, he entered the publishing business, becoming a distributor for a Chinese-language newspaper called Chinatown. However, he didn't know how to run a newspaper or conduct business. The result was a failure, leaving him with significant debts. Michael quickly filed for bankruptcy after this business failure. Michael found himself in the most difficult situation of his life. Just 3 months after Anand Le returned to New Zealand, Michael resumed his violent behavior. He attacked and even threatened to kill her with a sword. Their daughter, crying, ran to her mother for help but was kicked aside by Michael. After reporting the incident to the police, the mother and daughter were again provided with protective services. The police confiscated Michael's passport and sword and required him to complete a course on family relationship repair. However, Anand Le had lost hope for reconciliation and was too afraid to stay in Auckland. In June 2007, she moved with her daughter to the capital, Wellington, and began living separately. In July, she registered an account on a dating website. On her blog, on August 29th, she wrote a journal entry about a secret romance she had in Wellington. Anand Le wrote, "He was lonely, I was lonely. 2 people burned by the fire, so everything that needed to happen, happened. We lived happily as a family for nearly 2 months. Later, after leaving Wellington," she wrote, "a week after his wife returned, I drove away from our love nest, leaving his city." This journal entry clearly indicated that she had ended a relationship with a man after some time. Michael also realized something was wrong. His wife had been away for 2 months without paying any rent. This made him furious. Michael complained to a fellow Chinese friend from his hometown in Liaoning, saying, "In my entire life, no one has ever deceived me except my wife, Anand Le. She didn't want to live with me sincerely, she used me to gain benefits. She has no income in New Zealand, and I've had to cover all the expenses. That's the greatest resentment of my life." It was likely at that moment that the thought of murder began to form in his mind. Michael's mind. The police confirmed that the last time Anand Le was seen was around 4 p.m. on September 11, 2007, at a children's center in the suburbs of Auckland. After that, no one knows what method Michael used to lure Anand Le back home. On September 12th, Anand's mother called, and Michael answered the phone, telling his mother-in-law that Anand had gone to Wellington to attend a party. After Anand's death, Michael went to the local authorities and reclaimed his confiscated passport. The next day, on September 13th, he flew with his daughter to Melbourne, Australia. He then contacted a travel agency, saying he wanted to book a same-day flight to Los Angeles. The staff checked and found that the earliest available flight wasn't until September 15th, 2 days later. Initially, Michael planned to take his daughter with him as he fled to the U.S., but he quickly changed his mind, realizing that fleeing with a child would be a burden. So, Michael made the heartless decision to abandon her. After the incident, Michael's eldest daughter expressed her desire to care for her half-sister. The embassy quickly intervened and assisted in bringing Anan Leo's mother from Changsha to take custody of her granddaughter and return home with her daughter's ashes. The Chinese community in New Zealand raised money to help Little Pumpkin, but her grandmother declined the donations. Her daughter's tragic fate left the grandmother feeling guilty. She had thought that sending her daughter abroad would provide a better life, but she never expected such an outcome. Due to infrequent contact, the mother was unaware of what Anan Leo had endured over the years. She also knew nothing about her daughter's married life and had never even met Michael. After entering the U.S., American authorities issued a nationwide arrest warrant for Michael. At one point, he was placed on the U.S. Top 100 Most Wanted list, alongside leaders of terrorist organizations. A year later, on February 28, 2008, in College Park, a suburb of Atlanta, a Chinese restaurant chef named Wu Gen was reading the newspaper. He saw that U.S. police were offering a $10,000 reward for the capture of a fugitive named Michael. When he saw the picture, he was shocked. "Isn't that Mr. Tang who works at the restaurant?" Wu Gen recalled suspicious things about him, like how his luggage was never unpacked, as if he was ready to move at any moment. Mr. Tang was always alert while sleeping, waking up at the slightest noise. He also claimed to be from Hebei, but spoke with a different accent. Convinced this person was the fugitive, Wu immediately called for friends from Qingdao who were also living in the U.S. and told them about the situation. Among the 5 men, 3 were restaurant delivery workers, 1 was a former provincial soccer player, another was an ex-soldier, and 1 had won a wrestling medal. All of them were strong and physically fit. However, none of them spoke English, so after 3 failed attempts to explain the situation to the police, they had to take matters into their own hands. The 5 men devised a plan. The smallest of them, Wu Gen, went to alert the police while the remaining 4 prepared to apprehend Mr. Tang. That same night, they all gathered at the apartment under the pretense of going out to eat together. However, the fugitive quickly sensed something was wrong and prepared to leave. The 4 men decided to act immediately. The retired soccer player moved forward to block the fugitive, while one of the men tackled him to the ground. At the same time, the others rushed in and tied his hands and feet with leather straps. When the police arrived, the fugitive was already restrained. Inside his wallet, they found a New Zealand driver's license, confirming his identity. The international manhunt had finally come to an end. The fugitive was later extradited to New Zealand. The 5 men who captured him received a $10,000 reward, but they decided to donate the entire amount to charity. They were praised by both the media and the Chinese community for their actions. On June 2, 2009, the Auckland High Court in New Zealand officially opened the trial of Michael for the murder of his wife and the abandonment of his daughter, a case that had shocked 3 countries, New Zealand, the United States, and China. Michael was charged with murder. The trial took a long time, with over 90 witnesses involved. Michael attempted to defend himself by claiming that he was not the murderer. He stated that he only placed the body in the trunk of the car to avoid responsibility and that he fled with his daughter to escape being arrested. Forensic experts had found mixed DNA on Anan Leo's underwear, with the majority belonging to Michael, but smaller DNA samples came from 2 other men. This introduced some uncertainty into the case. While Michael's DNA was found on the tie used in the crime, DNA from another man was also discovered. Michael's defense attorney presented a startling argument, claiming that the victim's blog and dating website activity showed evidence of her infidelity and provided a potential motive. They suggested that Anan Leo may not have been a victim of murder but instead died during rough sexual activity with others. The attorney argued that it was possible Anan Leo did not die in her own home but accidentally suffocated during intimate relations with 2 other men. The mysterious man then allegedly placed her body in Michael's trunk. Forensic experts testified that DNA could spread in certain ways. Even saliva in the air could carry DNA, and it was possible that DNA was transferred when clothes were washed together in the washing machine. They did not rule out the possibility that, before her death, the victim had close contact with another man. However, this contact might have occurred at different times, and it did not entirely exclude the possibility of Michael's involvement in the crime. One undeniable fact remained. Before Michael murdered his wife, Anan Leo, their marriage was filled with violence and jealousy. After several weeks of trial, on June 20, 2009, a jury of 12 people reached a verdict. Michael was found guilty by a majority of 7 votes. On July 31st, the Auckland High Court in New Zealand sentenced Chinese national Michael in the case of murdering his wife and abandoning his daughter. He received a life sentence with a minimum of 12 years before being eligible for parole. Naturally, Michael was not pleased with this. He shouted in court that it was unfair because all the jurors were women. This was one of the reasons Michael felt the trial was unjust. For many years afterward, Michael continued to insist on his innocence. He wrote an autobiography while in prison titled I Am Not a Murderer, in which he portrayed his wife, Nan Le, in a negative light and continued to deny responsibility for her murder. By 2020, at the age of 66, Michael's attitude unexpectedly changed when he admitted to killing his wife due to her betrayal. He said, "I've always regretted it." However, it seems this change of heart came because Michael had served 12 years in prison and was seeking early release by showing remorse. But his intentions were uncovered. Psychological evaluations showed that he had a high likelihood of reoffending, and thus his parole request was denied. In life, there are stories full of tragedy and heartache, and the story of Michael and Nan Le is one of them. From betrayal to facing death, it's a tale of crime, regret, and the fight for justice. Whether or not Michael ever finds forgiveness, his story stands as a cautionary reminder about the power of impulsive actions and the consequences they carry. Let this story remind us that, no matter what life throws our way, we always have the power to choose. Our decisions can have profound effects on the lives of others and ourselves. Think carefully before making decisions, and always hold on to kindness and respect for others. That is the true path to happiness and peace. First and foremost, I want to take a moment to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch my video. Your support means the world to me, and I cannot thank you enough for choosing to spend your valuable time here. Every single view, like, comment, and share that you give is an incredible source of motivation and encouragement. It's because of viewers like you that I am inspired to continue creating content, improving with each video, and striving to bring even more exciting, helpful, and entertaining material to this channel. Your engagement is truly the lifeblood of this community. Whether you're here for the first time or have been following me for a while, I appreciate your presence and involvement so much. Your comments and feedback are what help me grow and push myself to deliver better content with every upload. Knowing that you enjoy and find value in what I create gives me a sense of purpose and drives me to keep moving forward. I want to kindly invite you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. By doing so, you won't miss out on any of the new content that I have in store for you. I'm committed to bringing you videos that will not only entertain but also inspire, educate, and make your day a little brighter. Subscribing is a simple way to stay connected, and it ensures that we can continue this journey together. Additionally, by subscribing, you become a part of this growing community where your voice matters. I always welcome your thoughts, ideas, and suggestions, and I make it a priority to read your comments because they are invaluable to me. Whether it's ideas for new videos, feedback on what you liked or didn't like, or just sharing your thoughts, I'm here for it all. Together, we can create a space that feels positive, engaging, and full of meaningful conversations. So please, don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button now. If you're already subscribed, I want to give you an extra special thank you for being a part of this journey with me. Your support, no matter how small it may seem, is making a huge difference, and I'm incredibly grateful. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll always know when I've uploaded something new. Trust me, there's a lot of exciting content on the way, and I don't want you to miss any of it. Once again, thank you so much for being here, for watching, and for supporting this channel in any way you can. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I can't wait to see what the future holds as we continue to grow together. Let's keep the momentum going, so make sure to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Wishing you all the best and looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care and stay tuned.